We arrive. We arrive. Today we want to talk about the flower of life. What the flower of life is. How can you cultivate it? How can you let it keep going, growing until you become the best version that you have never seen? How can you let that happen? That is what we want to talk about today. So, first thing first, I have a stream. Remember, we always talk about the sinusoid wave that the soul is made of sinusoid wave. It's mathematical information. Uh, we always say it's mathematical. Wait, uh, wait. Uh, there's some sound playing on the background, so I want to stop it. There's sound on the background, you can hear it. I want to stop this. Yes, that's it. So, how can you stop the flower of? How can you keep your flower of life to keep going, keep shining? That everybody should admire it and be inspired with your flower of life. Always, I always engage the participants. If you have any comment, you can drop it on the comment section. If you have any question, put it on. I am going to be able to see it on the chat section, and there are going to be rewards if your comments, your questions are helping the majority. Remember, all we want is to are helping the majority. Then you are going to get a reward at the end of stream. If you are a non-member, and you might even be uh, chosen to be a manager of moderators. You see, you can be a manager. It will look. It all depends. So let's keep it. Uh, Continuing on the flower of life, and I should share with you guys what we are going to cover on the flower of life, sinusoid waves, and the uh, remember sinusoid waves, and we want to explain it with a well diagram. We are like
is a sine wave.
yeah.
In a way, every sound is made from an infinite number of sine waves. This is a
Yeah, so let's start to look what a sinusoid wave is like. And in combination for it to be, remember, once we say sine, there is always cosine. Nothingness involves all the two opposites together, negative and all the positive values. And this is a well-label diagram how mathematical information can be we can explain it mathematical. This is the way we can explain mathematical information. So Let's continue. Network guys, sorry, network is flipping. Let's just wait it for it should load first. Once it has loaded, then we will continue listening. Every sound is, remember I have just taken the title of the journal is every sound is a sign. So I have just much more focusing on how the sound waves are generated and the form it takes. It's the same as the flower of life, like a growing tree. Once you have produced flowers, then they wither and the flower, as long as deep down it is being given the necessary things like water, the physiological things, water, it's able to expose itself to sunlight, nutrients. Those are the carbon dioxide. The flower will keep it going. Remember the process of photosynthesis, and it will keep producing new flowers and with that, and they will go to with while applying that process in as human. You can just look at the time you were born and the your reality tunnel and the reincarnation. We relate it now to reincarnation or relocalizing. The way you were in a primary school, the way you were in secondary school, if you were at college, the way you are in college, or if you are employed, the way you are while you are employed. But the only thing that now let people not to let their flowers still shining, growing is when we have what we make an end mean decision to an end. Is when we find most of people when they reach 40, 50, they are growing with us. It's like they no longer dreaming. Because remember, this whole process happen unconsciously and consciously in dreams or in our lucid awakening, day-to-day lives. So network is
There are several basic waveforms used in electronics. What do they sound like, and why?
yeah, you can look at that. It's a sound, but it has they didn't draw the
Is
form
a
yet.
sine wave. Is how you can visualize this vibration over time.
The sound you see, that
It's
is
the
one
waveform.
sign. You see, it's a waveform. So
Here,
you see, here is drawing how this
the
waveform is
purest
formed.
form of sound
You see,
is a
this one is
sine
one
wave.
sinusoid
In
wave.
a way, every sound is made from an infinite number of sine waves. This is a
These are the
controversial
waves,
yet
but they
irrefutable
are all
statement.
sine.
A single sine wave has three properties: magnitude, phase, and frequency.
So you can read, oh,
The
this
magnitude is the relative volume.
on your own time.
The phase is the
If
relative
you
moment
read
of
them,
one cycle. To identify
go and read the amplitude of every sine and the every sine wave, and once you know them, And if you find some waves that are similar that have the same amplitude and magnitude, then know that they are of the same. You see, the same as we talk about light equals to uh, so equals to mind, because they have the same amplitude and the magnitude, have the same amplitude and wavelength. We also talk about wavelength. So if you want to study more about this, there are a lot of channels. You can go at Professor Richard channel. He explained well about the mathematical wave forms and explanation of what cosine and cosine sine waves are. Even he go deep into explanation
Be taken on
of
two successive waveforms.
So you can look at here. You see, this is one sinusoid wave, and here is where its amplitude is, and here is time. So look at your life as when you are born from here at 0. Remember, this can be put inside a circle. Looking at once it is inside the circle, then it will take this point as 0 as our starting point. You can take this point as the time you were born, or we look at the time we were born, because we know there is biology. The biology talk about the from what happened for conception to happen up to the or we talked about the time of conception. In biology, you have to be from morula up to fetus and delivery. But here, let's just look at the time you were born. So the time you were born, we should take it as day 0. You see, if that is day 0, then it's a soul that now have come to the planet. You see, it has been welcomed, it has been given name. Now it is now for it now to learn and discover its true self. How is it going to do that? Because the society is all based on operating conditioning. That's why we say school also helps a lot. You see, in the discovery, because it's only school where you can learn mathematical functions. Mathematical concepts is what we explain right now. That because once you go read philosopher, some they will just tell you that the reality is mathematics, but they are not going to explain or relate it to you how the reality is mathematics. You see, that's why we are want to know that everything you understood it properly. So from day 0, then you have day 1, you have a week. Then remember, all this is time elapsing where you are going, but you as a soul, it keeps growing. It keeps growing. It keeps learning new frequencies and adjusting itself to its optimal self. And as long as it is doing that, it means it also keeps your avatar nourished, entertained, and more fulfilling. You see, that is the importance of learning, growing, and actualizing. And in a shared dream, you also need to learn what others think about the reality. But if you don't do that, then you are going to miss the cosmos. Remember, we talk about the Holy Spirit, and the cosmos is where you have stayed, where the information is. Why you have to keep yourself up to date? Because your friends might learn a lot of things. They might be far away from you because of what they are learning. So all these are prize. That is the most important thing about it, time. So in process of learning, it's not all about just going to library, reading books, whatsoever. No, but as long as you have awakened, there's a lot of process you learn for you to get the power self. The power self, this identity of I, the true self, we always talk about that. And you get it how in a bicameral mind there is also information. So you follow the light pattern, the light information that the information who is telling you the truth. You see? Once you have done that, it's your process of growing, learning, and actualizing. And everything is going to follow you. But if someone is telling you not the truth, then you have to question what he is saying. If he is not able to explain, he has no evidence of what the truth is, then you have a say of, no, I know who I am. I know what the reality is. What you are telling me, it going to left or it is going to the right. All I know is you are you are an absolute being. You are a soul, a monad. So once you know that now the issues of stress, if you know the truth, the issues of stress, fear of unknown also diminishes. You see? You value up respect instead of fear. So let's continue.
Sometimes the point may be where it crosses the 0 volt line, or at other times it may be a specific trigger voltage.
So here,
The next is the frequency. This is the number of vibrations per second.
so
it's possible, for
process of
example, to
vibration
measure.
per second, we can explain it in terms of amount of information you have read and you have accumulated those information. Your brain as a filter, it compress it, we can say it compresses the information and it filters, it takes the most optimal, it chooses the most important for you to use that information in your day-to-day life, while the rest of information is embedded in your unconscious self. You see, once it is embedded in your unconscious mind, in the process of mindful meditation or situation makes you remember what you was learned in the past. Because remember, we are involving mind. So what is you in your unconscious self? If someone asks you, you might remember it and it might help that person. But if nobody is talking about that information, then the information is kept in your, is embodied in it, unconscious self, and it might be part of the collective consciousness. Remember, collective consciousness now is where all the minds are putting the information, and the collective in collective consciousness, it's where the dreams came from. We dream collectively. Let's look at another sinusoid wave.
So we call this a sine wave. We know
This
it well
is
from
how
radio
now
signals. It's the
sound
pure tone at a given
generating
frequency.
it.
But then you might think back to high school and remember sine and cosine having something to do with triangles and figuring out angles. How are these two things related? Let's find out. Hi everyone, welcome back to Sound and Voltage. I'm Jeff.
Remember,
You may have been following
for
along
you
with
to
my
know
series on
complete
frequency modulation
a
and
sinusoid
FM
wave,
synthesis.
it must
And
be
in that
in
series, we're getting to the point of digging
uh,
into the math that underlies it.
Yeah.
Important restriction.
Yeah.
Let's just assume
Here is the now how sinusoid waves
that the
of
radius, the value for r
existence
here,
are generated. It's the circle, and this circle rotate. You see, this hypotenuse rotate in the process of running it, and it generates new forms, new waves, and those waves give rise to forms. You see, its forms now give rise to matter, because as they are rotating, giant frequencies are created, and those giant frequencies makes now give things to give rise to matter. It makes you now to truly dream and make that dream we were having, the corrective unconscious mind generated to reality, and we build a beautiful horse. Once the beautiful horse is built, it's all for all of us to cherish on, for all of us to live on and enjoy the beauty.
Is always one.
But
It
remember,
doesn't really matter what it's one of, 1 inch,
others
1
are
mile, the length of one banana. We
destroyed,
just agree to call it
because
one.
new
And that
forms
makes this
are
a unit
always
circle.
keep it
And now that we've got that, something
being
interesting
created.
happens.
So as long
Remember
as
when we
the new
described
forms are
sine as
being
being the
created,
ratio of the opposite
we
side
keep
here, of
continue
the hypotenuse?
winning,
Well, now we know how
creating
long the
and
hypotenuse is. We
creating
just agreed that
destroying.
it's always going to be equal to
Devils
1.
gods,
So let's call the length
devils
of this opposite
gods.
side here
Remember,
y.
devil
Well, if
is
the
a
sine of that
powerful
angle,
octave
the
that
sine of theta, is
represents
equal to the length of that side.
Remember, devil is powerful octave that represent distraction, while God is a powerful octave that represent togetherness, constructive powers. You see, you can see. We always say the devil separate us, God put us together. Jesus is our savior. Like we talk about Jesus, why? Because it's light is someone we put our life to be our savior. He is our light bearer. See, Jesus is our light bearer. He is us in motion. He is the one we trust. While God is our barrier, He fights things for us. He makes things for us to be in harmony. In short, we can just say He constructs things for us. That's why we majority end up emptying themselves and put trust to God, looking up to sky, that the power self is placed on the Almighty. It might be in the sky where there are different. Remember, we have different religions, so the way we represent everyone, represent where his God is, it's also different. So in so doing, because we have lose that power self, we have put it in someone, then it means for us now, faith is the biggest weapon. Faith is in the control of everything we do, we act, we live. But if there wasn't such a thing, then faith cannot be. If we were looking within, realize who we truly are, then we would have been able to take 100% responsibility of everything we do. Yeah. So let's continue.
Divided by the length of the hypotenuse, y divided by 1 equals y. So the value of the sine function, when the radius of the circle is 1, the value of that sine is just the length of the side of the triangle. That's one side of the triangle. How about the other one? 270 degrees. The sine is down at -1, and the cosine is back to 0. If we keep going, it's just going to wrap back around.
See?
Now, degrees are easier for humans to think about, but that's not how the universe thinks about it. We're going to start measuring angles differently in a minute, but before that, let's just dig a little deeper into how the sine value, the height of that point along the edge, changes as we go around the circle.
You see?
Wow. Yeah, okay. There we go.
Here's how now this frequency, you see, this is only one sine wave, like the one I showed you in the first video. And here is now the process, how it is getting generated. Remember, our soul, we are at our soul, it's the center. We are when we are explaining the universe, when we are explaining the eternity, we put our soul at the center of everything, and the rotation is what helps in doing other activities. So as long as it's at the center, then you gather information, you grow, you dream, then these are now the forms that get generated. As these are generated, it means time is elapsing, but you are still grounded at 0 dimension. And what at your 0 dimension is where now the Horos is. And at the Horos, is now when you start generating when now when forms you turn them to matter. Now when we are creating now the Horos now dream world we live on. But as we are doing so, the waveform of the sensor will still keep it growing. If you have stopped learning, then you are going to fail to nourish your avatar, to update yourself. It will be like your soul now will be operating at it. If you will take as how the computer system operates, it means you will be operating at it low frequency. You are going to start operating at basic level. Remember, those that are up to date, they act better than the ones who haven't learned new things.
There's our sine wave, and it's created just by working our way around the circle.
You see?
There really are 3 variables when it comes to
So
describing
here
a
is
sine
the
wave.
sentence where
There's
the zero
amplitude,
is,
which is
and
the
we
maximum
dream.
distance away
If
from
you are a
0.
human being, you
And
must
here we're
look
just
at
sort of
the
using the
at
natural default
intuition
amplitude.
and
Because the unit circle has a radius of
up
1, the values for sine are
the brain
restricted to be
started
within 1
creating
and negative 1.
filtering information.
The second variable
from
for
the
our sine
collective,
wave is
and
frequency.
these waves
If we rotate around our circle faster,
generated.
then we go through our sine wave pattern faster, and that increases the frequency.
You
If we
see?
go through it slower, then the frequency drops.
Yeah. So that is that, guys. I wanted to share with you for today. I hope you have understood what a sine wave is, the growing flower, as long as it's being provided with the physiological needs. For us humans, physiological needs we need is air, water, food, clothes. Sometimes they say sex, but sex is not that for sex for pleasure, but for reproduction, for new species to be arising. There is a need for cooperation. Yeah, that is that, guys. I wanted to explain today. But I hope you have understood it very well, and you are able to look what I was explaining uh, uh, clearly. If there is any questions, if there is somewhere you didn't understood, the next time you have to put it in the comment section, and I'm going to respond to you properly. Yeah, that is that we had for today, guys. Bye.